everybody.
It's Sunday. Now, as you can see, Ann, I'm wearing a sweatshirt today because it is cool and cloudy and windy here in northwestern Wisconsin. So
it is cool and rainy and a little breezy here in eastern Michigan.
Nice.
Southeast
nice.
Michigan.
Yeah, I'm fond of it. And again, it sort of reminds me of being like on Lake Michigan on a day where you would go to Gwen Sticks. So yeah, I love it.
Exactly. We get to go out to lunch and shopping today.
That's right. That sounds nice. So my friend Lisa and her husband Randy, they're the ones that run Tin Cat Studio. They had been on a little trip to the UP of Michigan, and they had been kind of they have a big camper, and so it was kind of a get out of Wisconsin. And they happened to cross a beach. I can't remember which one, where not only was there a bunch of garbage, but somebody just left their human poop on the beach. So pooped on the beach. Yeah. So this quick public service announcement is for the, if you guys are out there enjoying nature, just don't be dicks. God. Sorry.
Rude.
At least cover it up or bury it or whatever.
I was going to say, how hard is it to cover it up? Like a cat. If my cat can cover it up, so can you.
Yeah, I'm like, if my cat knows enough to cover up its own feces, a human person should know to cover up their own feces. All right, sorry. I've been steaming about that for days. All right, I had to get that off my chest. Okay, public service announcement, over. Okay.
Over.
So, Ann, what did you have for breakfast today? What did you have for your Sunday brunch?
We did a little bit of grocery shopping, and then we went to Avalon in Ann Arbor. And
love that place.
Yeah, it's yummy. I had their eggs and toast because they have Avalon bread with homemade preserves. And then it comes with fingerly potatoes and eggs, and then salad with a really nice dressing, and it was so yummy.
Nice.
Like, I'm just having that because it had things I wanted: salad, toast with jam, and potatoes, and then the eggs were a bonus. So
nice. Yeah, they have really good avocado toast there, and that's where people are gonna think I'm a liberal elitist because I like avocado toast. But it's really good there because they put bacon on it. It's really crispy and yummy. Yeah, yummy. So yeah. I don't think just because I like avocados on a toast makes me a liberal elitist. Just makes
no. What makes you a liberal elitist, Jenny, is that you don't want people pooping on the beach and leaving their poop there. That's what makes you a liberal elitist.
It's true. That makes me a liberal elitist because I don't want your feces on my beach. You gotta calm down. Okay. Anyway, trying to check. Well, Joe and I decided to sleep in. Usually we get up really early on a Sunday and we go to the Amory family restaurant in Amory, but and we usually get there about 6, and neither of us could bear the thought of getting up at that early today. So we slept in until like 6:30 today, and then we went to the McDonald's in St. Croix Falls. However, we were treated to a treat today because on the way to McDonald's, so I could get a sausage McMuffin with egg, we saw a bear. I know, big old black bear was like running along Highway 8 there because apparently he needed a sausage McMuffin with egg too, and I don't blame him. So, yeah, I know.
With 2 hash browns.
Well, what I did is I only went with 1 hash brown today, but I decided to get an apple pie instead of a second hash brown. I know, because apples are healthy.
Exactly. It's practically a food group.
It was a super healthy breakfast of a sausage McMuffin with egg, a hash brown, an iced coffee, and an apple pie. And Joe was even healthier because he didn't even get the apple pie.
Was he trying to fit in his wedding dress or something?
Exactly. Susie Nelson is what she said. I think she was reacting to the person pooping on the beach, and she said, "Oh my God, like a cat." I know. Just cover your poop.
Just cover your poop.
I know.
It's not that hard.
It's not that hard. Look, my cat's going to do it right now. Right now, Betty is in the yard, and she's walking towards the planter because she poops in my planter at the back of the yard. Yeah, she does that. But you know what? She also covers it up when she's done. So, and it's so funny because when Marla goes outside, Marla doesn't like to poop outside, so she'll run all the way across the yard inside to poop in the house instead of out of the house, in her box, because she's a civilized indoor kitty.
Exactly. So, one of my cats got locked out once, and he was very mad because when I finally let him in, he ran in and pooped in the litter box. He's like, "Did you know there's no place to poop out there?"
Domesticated cats don't even know. Don't even know. I'm so glad that we slay you, Susie Nelson. All right, Monica says, I joined to hear about people publicly pooping, and I haven't even had coffee yet. Well, girl, have your coffee, because we're going to keep coming back around to this.
Exactly.
So, sorry. All right, so the goal today was to talk about our the brother sisters top 10 movies, and essentially what we did is we made it like the top 5 plus 5 movies. Mm-hmm. So Anne's top 5 and my top 5. Wait, what does that say? Maybe you should. Oh, for learning. Okay, that's funny. This is Susie. Susie Nelson wanted to say this. Or no, this is Monica saying maybe you should video her for educational purposes. LD. It's got possibilities. Mm-hmm. All right, I forgot to do my share screen, so I'm going to do my share screen real quick, and then let's get into our top movies, because with the quarantine and the COVID and stuff, I have been watching a lot more movies and Netflixies and things like that compared to what I used to do. And so I have had more time to consider this. And I got to tell you, again, this was a really hard thing. I literally had to go through and write down like all of the movies that I really like. And then I had to decide which ones belonged in the top 10 and which ones did not. So it was a bit of a struggle. So, there's that.
I didn't have as hard of time because I pretty much know. I mean, as soon as I see a movie, I'm like, I know where it fits or it doesn't fit. So I've had my top 3 have been my top three for a long time. So they've been hard to dislodge.
Very cool. Well, you made the slide first, Dan. So you put yours on there first. So you want to just go through yours first, and then I added mine later. So you cool with that?
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Here we go. We have Anne's top 5 movies, and these are in a particular order. Here we go. Number 5.
Number 5 is a movie that came out fairly recently called The Bronze. And 2016, it did not do well in theaters, and it got panned by Rotten Tomatoes and everybody else. It is dark and hysterically funny. I loved this movie so much. So it was directed by Brian Buckley, and it stars Melissa Rauch. And if you are familiar with The Big Bang Theory, she plays the wife of the guy that is the engineer. So she has this really high, squeaky voice. And of course, in real life, she doesn't. Yeah, so that's just her. Anyway, it is about a gymnast who about 10 years earlier won the bronze at the Olympics after overcoming a serious injury. So it was one of those, really hurt herself, still got out there, did her routine, and won the bronze and was the hero of the entire event. Well, it's 10 years later, and she's still trying to live off that very faded memory in her small town. And she is not a nice person. She is very much, she was an Olympic athlete. That's what she was. And she hasn't learned how to be anything else. And it is so funny. Her old coach dies and has left in her will, supposedly, begging her to coach this up-and-coming gymnast. And if she does, she'll get $50,000. And so she does. She coaches this gymnast to the Olympics. It is so, so funny. It is completely irreverent, dark comedy, rude, so funny. It's one of the funniest movies I've seen, newer movies I've seen in a long time. So as soon as I saw this, I saw it one time, and then I watched it 2 more times, and I watched it probably another 3 times. I love this movie. It is so very, very funny, dark, and very funny. Mm-hmm. The Bronze. Nice. So it did not get good reviews, which I don't know who's reviewing it, but it was awesome.
Can I find it on Netflix or Prime or something?
Netflix, you'd have to get the DVD. I think you can get it on Prime or Amazon, but you have to pay to rent it, unfortunately.
Okay. Very good to know.
So it's worth it.
Good to know.
My next movie, of course, we've already talked about this movie once. My top 4 movie is Raising Arizona, 1987, directed by Ethan and Joel Coen, who also wrote it. Of course, it is the story of Hai and his wife Edwina and their their need to have a child. So,
progeny.
like, if you would like to hear our full review of it, we have a former a cast of it. So there's much more to tell, but very funny movie.
A classic.
Awesome.
A classic movie.
Yes. So my number 3 is Mad Max Fury Road. And it came out in 2015. George Miller directed this, and he also directed the first one. And he directed Babe, Pig in the City. So he did that as well. It stars Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy. One of the things I like about this movie is the language of it. They pretty much, yes, they're speaking English, but there's a whole, you almost have to see the movie a couple times to start understanding the language of it. All of the characters are so interesting. Like, there's this group of young women who are called they're Morton Joe's wives. And when I first started hearing reviews of this movie, they talked about, and there's these 5 super hot women who look like models. And so you get the idea that they're these vapid sort of characters, and they're not. Everybody in this story has had to survive, and had to survive tremendous odds. So because of that, they're all really interesting and vibrant characters. So the language is beautiful. The characters are awesome. And then, of course, I mean, honestly, the action does not stop for the entire time. So if you want a good action movie, it never stops. So,
well, yeah, and that's not one of those movies that you watch while it's bedtime. You can't.
No, you can't. You can't. So, yes. So this is my number 3 movie. My number 2 movie is actually Pan's Labyrinth, which is a set in Spain during the Spanish Revolution in the late 1930s, and it's directed by Guillermo del Toro, who just won the Oscar a couple of years ago for The Shape of Water. I love him. He's got this really, you can tell that he just loves the horror genre. He does a lot of movies that, they're almost so, you can almost feel them. There's so much texture and vibrant color in all of his movies. This one is a Spanish language film, and I usually I'm not big into foreign language films because I like to do stuff while I watch movies. And of course, since I don't speak Spanish, you have to sit and watch it. But when I saw it, it was just like, one, it's magical. And it's kind of like that little bit of dark magic. So you kind of have this princess and fairy tale, but the princess goes through a lot. And then it has one of the best monsters since Aliens. And then the fairies, it's just this young lady who's trying to, it's like I said, it's during the Spanish Revolution. She and her mother join her stepfather in a part of Spain. Her mother is pregnant. Her stepfather is not in the least bit interested in her. He just wants his wife to deliver a healthy baby boy. And he is not a good man. He's part of the army. He's a terrible human being. And she finds Pan, the god Pan, in the woods. And he's trying to lead her to saving herself and eventually saving her brother. So it's a beautiful story. It's magical. It's terrifying. And he has Guillermo del Toro has another movie. It's in my top 10. It is not a brilliant movie at all, but every time I watch it, I think of Genny and I, and that's, oh gosh, what is it? Oh, Pacific Rim.
I love that movie.
I love that movie so much. And it's not a brilliant movie, but if this movie was for real, Genny and I would be, we would be driving.
The Jaeger drivers. We would be
Jaeger drivers in a second. One, because we share a brain stem, so we can finish each other's sentences. We have a mental, we can have a psychic link already. And also, we're both so filled with rage.
I know. And you can never tell just by looking at us.
I know, exactly.
I know.
So anyway, anytime Guillermo del Toro directs a movie or even produces a movie, I usually seek it out because they're all, even if they're not like the best movies, they're always really worth watching. But this one made it to my top 2 because, one, it's a beautiful movie. The characters are lovely. The story is so interesting. And then, of course, the texture of the film itself is so engaging. You could practically taste the food and feel the fabric. And then the monster, he's the most horrifying monster. Anyway,
hooray!
totally
Awesome.
worth it. Even if you're not a Spanish speaker, watch this film.
See, I like foreign films. Because I feel very immersed in them. I love that.
And you can't help that. That's the thing that foreign films do is, especially, you're right, especially for me, is that you can't help it. Unless you speak the language, you can do nothing but totally get involved with it.
Agreed. All right, and here's your number one movie, Ann Brothers.
My number one movie is Citizen Ruth, 1996, directed by Alexander Payne. And he also did Sideways, Nebraska, Election, What About Schmidt? So he's got a number of excellent movies under his belt. This one was one of his earliest one. It stars Laura Dern, Susie Kurtz, and Burt Reynolds, and Kelly Preston, who passed away recently. She died of breast cancer. She was married to John Travolta. Very dark, hilarious movie. And I'm talking so dark. This movie is a comedy about abortion. That's how dark it is. But yet it is so funny. Ruth is a young woman who is addicted to huffing paint. She is an anti-hero. Just like, and the thing is, I kind of like anti-heroes, but you don't find a lot of female anti-heroes. In fact, in my top 5 movies, 3 of them have anti-heroes that are women. So she's an anti-hero. If you need a movie where you like the main character, you won't like her. She's not it. She's not it at all. She gets herself caught in the middle of 2 opposing groups, pro-choice and anti-abortion. And the sad part of this is that neither group is interested in Ruth. They're only interested in their own ideology and how they can use Ruth to enhance their ideology. And this is an example of, if you want to help somebody, you better ask them what kind of help they need. And nobody bothers to ask Ruth because she's such a mess. They don't think that she can help herself, which is not true. In the end, it has one of those endings where you're like, you don't know what happens, kind of just like,
end. Love it.
Yeah, I love the end too. Ruth runs off and you're like, you don't know what happens to her. And of course, the heart part of me wants to think, oh, Ruth will go off and she'll be better. But the head part of me, which is most of me, says, oh no, Ruth is going to be dead in a month. But then I thought to myself, well, aren't I like the 2 opposing groups? I'm putting what I think is going to happen on Ruth. I'm doing exactly what the 2 opposing groups do. I'm putting my own bias onto Ruth. And the truth is, whoever thought Ruth would be at this point anyway? Who knows what's going to happen to Ruth? So It's funny. It makes you think. I've seen this movie probably a dozen times. It has aged really well. I mean, this movie's over 20 years old. It did not do well in the box office, surprisingly, but it's gotten really good reviews. It has great reviews because it's super funny. It makes you think. Excellent cast of characters, wonderful story, and it's just like, I go back to it all the time. I go back to this movie constantly. And the first time I saw it, I was like, this is probably the best movie I've ever seen. This, I think, will always be my favorite movie.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. It is a great movie. And, you find yourself in this movie, the only one you end up rooting for is Ruth.
It is.
Because everybody else sucks so much.
So much.
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, and that's the thing. I'm like, and Ruth is so hard to like. I mean, she's really not. The choices she makes her very difficult to like. So you almost have to decide it's okay not to like her, but it's okay to root for her. You still want, you still want her to win.
Sure. So, all right. Well, and hey, ladies and gentlemen out there, if you're watching this, feel free to jump in with your own movies. If there's something that you really love, let us know. We'll share it out because that's kind of just what we're talking about. Because the fun thing about movies is that it is very, just really subjective. It just depends on what you like or don't like. And so there you have Ann's top 5. And then we have my top 5 movies. And I would say we have different top 5s. Though,
yes, we do.
I would agree with many of your choices. My number 5 is Stranger Than Fiction. And I think I've talked about this movie before as one of my very favorite comedies. And this is, just in a nutshell, why I like it. Essentially, what is happening is that we are following the character by the name of Harold Crick. And he is an IRS agent. He's a tax collector, and he's an auditor. And he lives a very sheltered, very mundane life, and he wakes up one day with a narrator in his head, and that narrator is Emma Thompson's character, who is a writer. And he doesn't, and it's for no particular reason. This woman is narrating everything that's happening in his life, and he thinks he's going insane. He's not sure what's happening. He's trying not to really pay attention to it until the narrator talks about his impending death, and that gets his attention. So it brings in some really great characters. So he seeks out the help of a literature professor, Dustin Hoffman's character, and they're trying to piece together who the author might be, what it means in terms of his life. And it's a clever story. It's told really well. It's so well cast. Emma Thompson's amazing. Dustin Hoffman's amazing. Queen Latifah's amazing. I love Maggie Gyllenhaal plays essentially Will Ferrell's love interest in this movie, and she is a great character. She's a baker who he's auditing. Fantastic movie, great soundtrack. This is one of those that makes you feel good inside, and that's why you might want to watch it. If you need a little happy pick me up to make you feel better about just anything, then watch this movie. And this is my go-to when I don't feel awesome. I go to this movie because I own it. Looks like Aunt Julie is with us. Tina is also a lover of Stranger Than Fiction. It's not, I would agree, Tina, that his life is not just mundane. It's highly programmed. He literally counts everything. He counts his steps. He counts his brush strokes. He counts how many times, he has to, tie, how many moves it takes to tie his tie. I mean, that's pretty much what he does. And it's not awesome. It's not awesome. So, and he's miserable, but he kind of won't admit that he's unhappy, but, and his wristwatch sort of, we'll say, pushes him out of his misery, so to speak. So, all right, number 4, and if you know me, you know that I like the sportsings, so I could not have a top 5 without having a sports movie. And this is all of the sports movies that I've watched, and I've watched most of them. This is my favorite one. It's a close second is Hoosiers, but A League of Their Own. It's my favorite sports movie, and it's very much one of the reasons I love this sports movie is that it's about women. It's about women who want so badly to be part of this world, that want so badly to play sports. And that is not a guarantee for them, especially back in the 40s when this league was started. And even when I was in high school, being able to play a sport was not a given yet. In this day and age, there's so many opportunities for women to play whatever sport they want, anywhere they want, whenever they want, at a high level. And you couldn't do that necessarily, even 30 years ago. So this movie resonated with me in the love of being able to play. I was labeled when I was a little girl as a tomboy because I like sports. It's like that was the label that I grew up with, when in reality, I was just a girl that just really loved to play anything. And it turned out that I had some talents in that. And it took me a long time to kind of overcome that stigma of being a tomboy, when really I just loved to play so much, and I couldn't imagine an existence without that. So that scene on the bus where they're talking about how they were made to feel that they were weird or strange because they could play, boy, that just hit home with me, because I was the girl on the boys' baseball team growing up, and it was unusual that I was good and competitive and played on the all-star team. And those are the things that I had to overcome, in order to just be myself and not worry about what those boys thought of me because I could play. It's also a great movie about sisterhood. Tina says that she saw it with you. We did. Myself and my sister Ann and a bunch of my girlfriends, Tina, we all were part of the cast of La Belle Soeur that Sean Bird was directing back in the day. And we all went and saw it together after rehearsal one night. And that in itself was super fun to be able to see this movie for the first time with my sister, because it's very much about sisterhood. Both between two sisters in a familiar way, but also the sisters that you make along the way by being part of a team, by being part of a cast of this all-female show. That's all part of this for me. Monica says League of Their Own was great. I would agree. Aunt Julie says, but you do not like to lose. No, I do not like to lose. That is correct, Aunt Julie. And that was one of the things about, being competitive, is that I got how competitive like Dottie was in this movie. And you can see the last bullet point. I still believe that she did not drop that ball on purpose at the end of the movie. There's been a lot of controversy that she dropped the ball at the end so that her sister could win. I'm like, no, she did not. That is not in her nature. And she would not have cheated Kit like that. Absolutely not. So no. So highly competitive. So like I said, love this movie a bazillion for many reasons. Number 3, The Shawshank Redemption. And I had said earlier that this was my favorite movie, but in processing it and thinking about it, this movie has fallen a little bit over the years, and it's still one of the greatest movies I believe ever made. It's the best adaptation of any Stephen King work ever. Mm-hmm. And again, it's a great movie if you need a little burst of hope, and it's got Morgan Freeman in it, who's awesome. And I think we've all seen this movie probably 800 times, and that's okay, because it's one of those movies that if you're doing something else and you happen to be scrolling around on a TV and you come across it, you watch it. You watch it. So that's number 3 for me. Number 2, and this one has been slowly climbing, and I'll be honest with you, my number 1 and number 2 movies, I went back and forth for like 15 minutes, switching them back and forth. So this could just as easily be my number 1 right now, and it's V for Vendetta. And so Natalie Portman, Hugo Weaving, directed by the Wachowski brothers. Of course, I don't think they're brothers anymore. I think they're both sisters now. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I won't get into that. But anyway, this is the same team that directed all the Matrix movies. So I've always thought this movie was a really cool movie, and it's climbed in my favorites because of what we're experiencing right now. So I would say over the last decade, and especially in the last 5 years, we've seen things really change in this country in terms of leadership, obviously. And so this movie there are some really interesting parallels, like the rise of I can't think of his name, of the leader in this movie, with the rise of Trump, the rise of Fox News, with the rise of this national network, that you've got Prothero, the character who's the proselytizing talk show host, reminds me very much of Hannity or Tucker Carlson. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that the character of V talks about in this movie is that the idea that people should fear their government or should not fear their government. It is the government that should fear their people. And I read an article the other day about the silent majority that is the United States, that we're experiencing this really terrible time in our country. And part of the reason is that we have this silent majority, and at some point that silent majority has to be heard, has to make themselves heard. Otherwise you end up with what you end up with. You end up with Nazi Germany, you end up with England in V for Vendetta, and it's just lose. So like I said, this movie keeps climbing in terms of, I feel like, not just, I think it's a really good movie, but I believe it's an important movie to watch, because it really makes you reflect on what's happening right now in our country. So yeah, this is to me a vital movie to watch. And there's some kick-ass action in it. Kick-ass.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I don't love Natalie Portman in this movie. She's all right. She's okay. I think they could have done better. I always try to imagine Charlize Theron in this movie. Yeah.
Something tells me they wanted somebody waffier, but I don't know. I don't think she has the gravitas to pull it off.
She doesn't, and that's the thing. You're supposed to see this really big transformation in her after V gets his hands on her, and you don't. She doesn't have the gravitas to pull that off after the fact. The first half of the movie, she's totally believable as Evie, but in the second half, when we need her to make that big leap, it never really comes through. So, and that's the one weakness in this movie is her performance. But considering the larger message and the performances around her, they're really good, in the story to go with it. So, and my number 1 movie, and I cheated on this, and I'm not sorry. I said Kill Bill volumes 1 and 2, because I really feel like if you're going to experience this, you have to watch one right after the other. In fact, I wish Tarantino would just make it into one giant movie with an intermission in between and re-release it into theaters. But
what else do we got to do?
Exactly. All right. So essentially what we have here is we have a tale of revenge. Mm-hmm. Uma Thurman plays the bride. She is beaten, shot, and left for dead by Bill and his group of cronies. And so it is her recovering, coming out of a coma and taking vengeance on Bill and those that were in on her attack, because she was pregnant at the time. I'm not going to tell you any more than that, other than to say that it is a story of vengeance. And I believe it is an overlooked Tarantino masterpiece. One of the reasons I love this movie is that every woman in this movie rules, all of them. Mm-hmm. They are just badasses. And I like it because there's other little messages throughout. Like the end of the second movie is the bride finds Bill, and he basically gives her this dissertation on who we are, who we think we are. And he talks about Superman and how Superman's vision of us, that the disguise, Superman, Clark Kent is essentially, Superman's commentary on what he thinks of the world. We're weak, we're soft, we're wimps, just, that whole thing. So I love that part of it, and it's so that part is just classic Tarantino. There's so much good action in it. The cruel tutelage of Pai Mei. I think Lucy Liu's little thing where she's, she takes control of the Yakuza, and and then, of course, my favorite thing is probably the fight scene in Bud's trailer between the bride and El Drago's character. It's just epically good. So, and like I said, it's the first, and if you don't like violence, then you will not watch this movie. The first one, Kill Bill 1, is incredibly bloody. The second movie really calms down in terms of the violence. I'm not saying there's not violence. There is. But there's more storytelling in the second movie. We get to know Bill better in the second movie. We get to understand the bride's relationship with Bill better and why and his regrets in attacking her. I just think like I said, I think it's a great story. I think it's good action. And like I said, you get so many just badass female characters, one stacked up on top of the other. So anyway, there's my top 5. Again, for those of you playing at home, we've got, we'll go back to Anne's top 5 real quick. Number 5 for Anne was The Bronze. Number 4 was Raising Arizona. Number 3 was Mad Max Fury Road. Number 2 was Pan's Labyrinth. And number 1 was Citizen Ruth. And for me, my top 5, Stranger Than Fiction was my number 5. Number 4 is A League of Their Own. Number 3, The Shawshank Redemption. Number 2, V for Vendetta. And number 1, Kill Bill, volumes 1 and 2 together. Yes, I cheated. No, I'm not sorry.
I can't decide if Tarantino loves women or hates women. I can't decide. So
yeah,
because he makes the best kick-ass women, but damn, does he not torture them?
He does. He does terrible things to them. And I actually think what Tarantino does is he expresses what many men won't express about women. That they love them and they want to murder them, and they're afraid of them and they want to hurt them. And the more I read about, because like I said, I'm reading the Hamilton biography right now, and he got himself into a lot of trouble with women. And one of the things that's interesting is when you look at his early prose where he's writing about women, and it's this, he wants them to be pure, but he wants them to be naughty all at the same time. He wants these very different things. And I really think that's a male thing, is that, and I'm not a dude, so I don't know, but I've seen it so often in literature, and you see it so often in the behaviors of men, that I sometimes think that Tarantino is just, he is openly expressing that. And I don't know, but yeah. So, but I would agree. Tarantino's, he's tough.
So yeah, I mean, he makes them totally kick ass, and you totally want to like, and then you're like, damn,
So but and I was like this, and there's the thing is, I really wanted to include all these other movies, like Interstellar is one of my favorites. I'm like, and I did. I went back and forth about whether Interstellar was going to make the top 5 or if Stranger Than Fiction was going to make the top 5. I'm still sweating just thinking about that decision. So
One movie I had a hard that came in and out of my top 5 was Election. I was like, it came in and out and in and out. I love that movie so much. I decided it's my number 6, but it came in and out of my top 5. So
well, and I feel like every teacher ever needs to watch the movie Election, because if you as a teacher ever feel yourself sort of feeling super high and mighty about the fact that you're a classroom teacher, you need to watch this movie. And it's a movie that will just make you check yourself. I'm like, you need to check yourself.
Exactly. Or you do something stupid.
Yeah. And it's just, there's many reasons for that, because I've seen a lot of teachers in my career who are not excited about the future success of their students. And I'm just like, dude, that is not why you're in this business. I'm like, if you can't deal with the fact that, you need to check yourself.
Yeah. So that was one movie that kept coming in and out.
Yeah. And Tina, to answer your question, yes, that was the movie where Uma Thurman got really hurt, and it was Tarantino's fault. So she was in a car accident on set. She was driving in one of the scenes, and he did a poor job of listening to her. She didn't want to drive that fast. She didn't like the car. She didn't think it handled very well. He ignored her, and she got really hurt. So, and I'm pretty sure that really damaged their friendship. So good job, Tarantino, you dummy. Anyway, but yeah, others that could have gotten in, I could literally do like a top 100 movies, but that's
sure,
that would take too long. Okay.
Yeah, so that was the one I struggled with, and I figured, well, since I already had like Citizen Ruth, which is the same director, since I already had that one of his movies in, that I would give the spot to somebody else. But Election went in and out. I've seen that probably 20 times. Duncan and I quote from it all the time. Oh, definitely. But I'm in love.
We're in love. You know what I love about Alexander Payne, that particular director, is I think he is one of the best directors of Americans, or just American movies. His movies are very American.
Midwestern Americans. Yes. Midwestern Americans. Yes.
He's got that. He's got the Midwesterners down to a science. It is. Spooky.
He does. It is. He's got us figured out. So yes.
Yes. So, gosh, we've been talking for almost 40 minutes. Thanks for sticking with us, you guys.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be meeting on Wednesday. Anna's going on a little vacay. So, lucky dog. So we're going to meet up again on Thursday. We are going to be, we will meet up for Bar Thursday. Yay. I don't know what we're drinking yet. It feels like it should be. Is it?
It's your turn. I think Michigan beer.
Okay. It feels like based on, should we tell them what we're looking at this week?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, Joe pointed out to me that it is this last week was the 35th anniversary of the release of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So we'll be watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure and talking about its brilliance, because it is such a great movie. And as far as what we're drinking, I feel like it has to be something big and Pee-wee-ish. So we'll get back to you on what we're drinking and why, because we're going to be reviewing, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. So yeah. So for real. So anyway, folks, thank you for joining us on this fine Sunday. Rainy Sunday in Michigan, cloudy, breezy Sunday in Western Wisconsin. So there you go. Oh, look, we've got people there excited about that. Yes, Tina, we are. Maybe we should bring Chip on with that, because I wonder if Chip would join us for that one, because he was the one that quoted the sweater thing like endlessly during our college years.
And I love that. And knitting and knitting.
Which is, by the way, how I described it. I was at a meeting for school a couple weeks ago, and somebody asked how we're feeling about all of this stuff going on with online instruction, the blended learning, and the hybrid stuff. And I quoted that. It's like a big sweater that someone keeps on knitting and knitting and knitting. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. You know what? I agree with you absolutely 100% that it should be a tequila-based drink, Tina. But I don't know.
Thinking that.
But like I said, I might have to come up with something super special, because it needs to be big and fruity with lots of stuff hanging to sort of emulate his house. So
yeah, exactly. No, I was thinking tequila too, because as soon as you said a drink, I was like, tequila.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Judy Peters, Judy, what's up, woman? Says, great job picking a top 5. That is very difficult to do for me. We'll have to check some out. Definitely check them out. A lot of these you can find on the various services, Primes, the Netflixes, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Aunt Julie, it should be some sort of tequila-based blender foo-foo drink. I would agree.
Yeah. Something big and beautiful.
Big and
With
beautiful.
flames.
Oh, I don't know if I can come up with those shoes because those shoes are big.
Those shoes are
Anyway,
amazing.
oh yeah. So anyway, you guys, we will see you on Thursday for a little bit of bar Thursday and a little bit of Pee-wee's Big Adventure Talk. Until then, enjoy your week, you guys. And by the way, Ann Brothers, happy August.
Happy August.
I know.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, remember, winter is coming.
That's right. Just remember, you guys, August is the Tuesday of months. All right, guys. All right, guys. We are out. Have a great day, you guys. Bye.
You too. Bye.